Sometimes, fate connects us in the most unexpected ways. That's what Emma Wilson discovered when her phone lit up at 2:17 a.m. with a message from an unknown number. It hurts so much. I don't know what to do anymore. Those 11 words would alter the course of her life forever. If you've ever wondered whether small acts of kindness truly matter, this story will show you just how powerful compassion can be. Like, subscribe, and join me on this journey that proves sometimes, the wrong text finds exactly the right person. Emma stared at her phone screen in the darkness of her bedroom, the blue light illuminating her tired face. 3 years after her divorce, sleepless nights had become routine, but this was different. Someone was in pain, reaching out, even if to the wrong person. Her thumbs hovered over the keyboard. The sensible thing would be to ignore it, to assume it was a wrong number and go back to scrolling mindlessly through social media until exhaustion finally claimed her. "I think you have the wrong number," she typed, "but are you okay?" The response came almost immediately. "Oh God, I'm sorry. I meant to text my sister. Please ignore this." Emma should have left it there. She had her own problems, a demanding job as a hospital administrator that drained her, a growing distance from friends who'd moved on with their families while she remained stuck in post-divorce limbo. Yet something about the desperation in that initial text tugged at her. "It's fine," she replied. "But seriously, are you okay? It's the middle of the night, and you sound like you're going through something awful." The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. "My daughter has leukemia. Tonight's been rough. The pain meds aren't working well, and she's finally fallen asleep, but I needed to tell someone it hurts. To watch her suffer. To feel so helpless." Emma sat up in bed, fully awake now. "I'm so sorry. That's unimaginable. I'm Emma, by the way." "Jack," came the reply. "Jack Mercer. And my daughter is Sophie. She's 7. Emma learned that Jack was a single father. Sophie's mother had left when she was 3, unable to handle the responsibilities of parenthood. For 4 years, it had been just the 2 of them against the world, until 3 months ago, when Sophie's constant fatigue and bruising led to a diagnosis that shattered their world. "The worst part is trying to be strong for her," Jack wrote. "Smiling when all I want to do is fall apart. You don't have to be strong with me," Emma found herself typing. "I'm just a stranger who happened to be awake at the right time." Their conversation continued until the sun began to rise. Emma learned about Sophie's love for drawing unicorns and her dream of becoming a marine biologist. Jack shared his fear of losing his job due to all the time he needed to take off for Sophie's treatments. Emma told him about her own life, her divorce, her job at Memorial Hospital, the emptiness she'd been feeling lately. When morning came, Emma sent one last message before heading to work: "If you ever need to talk again, even if it's at 2 a.m., I'm here." She didn't expect him to take her up on the offer. But the next night, her phone lit up again. Sophie had a better day today. She ate a whole popsicle and didn't throw up once. Small victories, right? Over the next few weeks, their late-night conversations became a lifeline for both of them. Jack found in Emma a safe place to express his fears without frightening his daughter. Emma discovered that supporting Jack gave her a purpose she hadn't felt in years. One night, Jack didn't respond to her messages. Worry gnawed at Emma's stomach as she went through her workday at the hospital. When evening came and still no word, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. On impulse, she checked the pediatric oncology unit's admission records, an abuse of her position, she knew, but concern overrode her professional judgment. There it was, Sophie Mercer, admitted that morning with a high fever and low blood counts. Without giving herself time to reconsider, Emma took the elevator to the 5th floor. She found him in the family waiting area, head in his hands, looking smaller somehow than she had imagined. Though they had never exchanged photos, she knew instantly it was him, the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. "Jack," she said softly. He looked up, confusion clouding his exhausted features. Yes? I'm Emma. From the texts. Recognition dawned slowly, followed by disbelief. Emma? But how did you? I work here. Hospital administration. She sat beside him, maintaining a respectful distance. I was worried when I didn't hear from you. Instead of anger at her invasion of privacy, relief washed over his face. They think it might be an infection. Her immune system is. His voice broke. Emma reached out, hesitantly placing her hand over his. I know. I understand the protocols. They'll give her antibiotics, monitor her closely. For hours, Emma sat with Jack, explaining medical terminology, bringing him coffee, listening as he talked about Sophie. When the doctor finally came with news that the antibiotics were working, Jack broke down, tears streaming down his face. Can I meet her? Emma asked. When she's feeling better, of course. 2 days later, Emma found herself standing nervously outside Sophie's hospital room, clutching a stuffed otter. Sophie loved marine animals, Jack had told her. The little girl sitting up in bed looked pale and thin, but her eyes lit up at the sight of the plush toy. You're the lady from Dad's phone, Sophie said matter-of-factly. He smiles when he texts you. Emma felt a blush creep up her neck as she glanced at Jack, who looked equally embarrassed. Your dad has told me a lot about you, she said, sitting in the chair beside Sophie's bed. I hear you're quite the artist. Sophie proudly showed Emma her sketchbook full of underwater creatures and fantastic beasts. Dad can't draw at all, she confided. His unicorns look like weird dogs. As Emma laughed, she realized it was the first genuine laugh she'd experienced in months. Something was shifting inside her, the walls she'd built after her divorce slowly crumbling in the presence of this brave little girl and her devoted father. After Sophie was discharged, Emma expected their connection to fade. Instead, it grew stronger. She helped Jack navigate the labyrinth of insurance paperwork and medical bills. He introduced her to the small joys she'd been overlooking, the satisfaction of building a blanket fort on a rainy Sunday, the simple pleasure of feeding ducks at the park. When Sophie was feeling well enough between treatments, the three of them would go on outings, science museums, aquariums, anywhere that sparked Sophie's curious mind. Emma found herself looking forward to weekends for the first time in years. Her apartment, once a sanctuary of solitude, now felt empty without their presence. 3 months after that first text, Sophie took a turn for the worse. The cancer had spread despite aggressive treatment. Emma took emergency leave from work, spending days and nights at the hospital with Jack and Sophie. Tell me about the otters again, Sophie requested one night, her voice weak but her eyes still bright with curiosity. Emma had become her window to the ocean world she so loved but might never get to explore herself. Emma described the sea otters she'd once seen in California, how they floated on their backs, using their bellies as tables, cracking open shells with rocks. Sophie listened, entranced, until her eyelids grew heavy. When Sophie drifted off to sleep, Jack turned to Emma. Why are you doing all this? You didn't even know us a few months ago. Emma considered the question. That wrong text, it came at a time when I felt disconnected from everything. I was going through the motions, but not really living. She looked at Sophie's sleeping form. You and Sophie reminded me what matters. How to care again. How to hope. Jack reached for her hand across Sophie's bed. You've become our family, Emma. I don't know how we would have gotten through this without you. The words hung between them, weighted with emotion neither was ready to fully examine. A week later, against all odds, Sophie's doctors discovered her cancer was responding to a new experimental treatment. The road ahead would still be difficult, filled with treatments and setbacks, but for the first time since her diagnosis, there was real hope. On Sophie's 8th birthday, they celebrated at the apartment Emma had recently moved into, closer to Jack and Sophie's home. As Sophie blew out her candles on a cake decorated with marine creatures, Emma caught Jack's eye across the room. "Make a wish," he mouthed. Emma didn't need to. Everything she could have wished for was already there in that room. 1 year to the day after that wrong text, Emma sat on Jack's couch, Sophie curled up between them watching a documentary about coral reefs. Sophie's hair was growing back, a soft fuzz covering her head. Her latest scans showed no signs of cancer. "Dad," Sophie said during a quiet moment in the film, "are you going to marry Emma?" Jack choked on his tea while Emma froze, eyes wide. "Sophie, we're not," Jack stumbled over his words. Sophie rolled her eyes with all the exasperation an 8-year-old could muster. "But you love her. You told me so." Emma turned to Jack, heart hammering in her chest. "You did?" His face reddened. "I was going to tell you. Not like this, but, yes. I love you, Emma. You came into our lives when everything was falling apart, and somehow, you helped put us back together." Emma felt tears welling in her eyes. "That text was meant for your sister. But it found you instead," Jack said, reaching for her hand. "The universe has a funny way of connecting people," Emma replied, squeezing his fingers. "And for the record, I love you too. Both of you." Sophie beamed, clearly pleased with herself. "See? I told you she did, Dad." As the documentary continued playing, Emma reflected on the journey that had brought her here. One wrong text. One impulsive decision to respond rather than ignore. One moment of human connection that had blossomed into something beautiful. Emma Wilson, who once filled her sleepless nights with emptiness, now filled them with love. A family had found her when she wasn't looking, proving that sometimes, the wrong number is exactly the right one. And a message sent in despair, "It hurts," had ultimately led to healing for all of them. If you're watching this and feeling alone, remember Emma and Jack's story. Remember that connections can form in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes, all it takes is the courage to reach out, or to respond when someone else does. Like this video if it touched your heart, subscribe for more stories that remind us of our shared humanity, and remember, the text that changes your life might be just one message away.